designed and built the lightsabers so that you could actually fight with them. And they had LEDs in them that were coloured. ILM only had to blend them into the shots. They were already there, and so the light interacting with the actors was all real. It came from the lightsabers. We'd already worked out the frequencies of the lights so that they could, when they made contact with each other, there was a bit of a spark and it would feel a whole lot more real. Well, that was probably the hardest scene to shoot. We originally were scouting for snowy woods outside, and we're going to shoot it at night outside. And it just became apparent that we weren't going to be able to do that, and that we would have to build it on set. There had been a hurricane in England that winter, and loads of trees had been knocked down, and the art department bought all the trees, and we built a forest using real tree trunks. We used a painted backing, a 360-degree painted night backing, which we lit. We were able to shoot the majority of that sequence without any green screen at all. It's all in camera. It was a very, very tricky thing to do. The ambient light was 1 2/3. That was the stop of the ambience in there. And we were shooting at a 2/8 2/3 on the camera. We had a 360-degree rail above the backing that could lower and raise into frame. And spaced along that rail, those are 2K pars that were alternately spot and flood, spot and flood. And I could lower those to the edge of frame. And I used those as backlight through the trees and behind the snow, interfering with the lens, just touching the edge of the lens so you got a halation. I've got that built into the set, and it's 360 degrees, so wherever we look, we can turn those on and lower them right to the edge of frame, because they need to more or less be on line with the lens for them to interfere with what's going on. The rest of the backing were lit with space lights and hexagonal LED flat things, but it was very simple. We didn't have very much more than that. I like to put one of the electrical department into the art department as a sponge to soak up what is going on in terms of the set design and what is being thought about, so that we can install our lighting in advance without destroying the set after they've built it. So I like to have somebody there that represents us, the camera and the electric department, so that we can have our sets as efficient as possible. We do that, and we also obviously study the concept art and have big discussions about the tone and what it's supposed to look like in these sets. Then as the sets start being built, we start photographing paint and textures and textiles and everything. We try to test everything and put it on camera and see what it looks like on film before we commit 100% to anything. Generally, it's already there, or it's started. Those will dictate colors we'll use and the textures we'll try to create. But often we could start lighting a set as per the concept art and realize that perhaps it's too blue or it's too red, or we have to do something in order to make it work technically and deviate from the original plan. But generally we try to just get it all in one. The sets were the sets. They had already been designed and built, and we weren't really invited to change them very much at all, technically. So the types of fixtures that were there were the fixtures that were there. The Millennium Falcon, there's nothing we could do with it, really. If you look at it carefully, you will see a few incremental changes that we've made that I hope weren't too invasive, but they're only there to just accentuate and make it more beautiful. It was in a state of disrepair, so we introduced the mechanics inspection lamps into the guts of the panels that were open to make it feel like people were working on it. He has some chrome strips in his mask which are a gift to us. We could reflect all sorts of things in there, but I realized on looking at the earlier Star Wars that they had these sort of pings of color around the set. I just started putting them in everywhere. We're able to control our entire lighting package from an iPad next to the camera, so basically we can access all those colored lights that are buried within the ceiling and the walls and everything like that, and they enable us to put reflections into the suits. And when you see it, you don't really realize that it's there. It's only if you actually stop the frame and take a look, oh look, there's a red sort of thing. But it gives so much life to the wardrobe to have those kind of things happening. And I've learned from visual effects so much. I sort of made it my business to understand how CG world works in terms of my contribution to it. I try to give the visual effects department whatever they need in order to make the movie look good. I listen very carefully to what they ask for and what they ask me to do. I'm never really confrontational about it. By doing that, I make the movie better, and that's my job. You know, if you're going to do a movie with visual effects, you want to be working with ILM. Their resume is insane, and their ability is, as far as I can make out, unlimited. There's nothing they can't do. In our world, we try to bring as much physical stuff to the cameras, and then all the CG work, we try to minimize what that is, and so it turns out to be a very good balance. Generally, they're working on the effects as we shoot, and they'll come around and show us what they're doing, and they'll do rough passes at it, and it's only now in post that the real finishing and the detail happens, and we get to see all these effects when we're color timing them.
Okay, go. This way.
47 upper hangar control.
At that point is where it's hard to blend the digital work with the film work. It has to be accounted for and made to feel like it's seamless. And that takes a few passes.